Welcome to the Vault XL. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday to everybody in the viewing audience. Welcome new subs, guests. Like, share, subscribe. Make this content go viral. This is a two-part live pertaining to the arrest of Keffe D. He is obviously a suspect in the murder of Tupac Shakur. And many of you who are fans and know of Mr. Tupac's music, movies, he was murdered in 1996, September 1996. I also have an update pertaining to JonBenet. There are some persons of interest that have been mentioned. I'm going to bring you that said update by, I have to think for a second. I mentioned these people so much I can't even think. But anyway, the third part of this live is pertaining to Jacqueline, Giselle West. They received their sentence yesterday. 19 years plus life. Will they do all of that time? Life, or will they get paroled at some point? 15 years, Jacqueline will be under 50. Why didn't she turn on Trezell? Why did she wait until getting a guilty verdict to try to appease to the court that she was a victim? Very disrespectful to the children, the jury members, and the judge. But as you see, the judge gave them each 15 years plus 4 for the abuse of the second child that was not a guilty verdict on. That would be classic. The younger child. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Lolo. Let's get down to business, everybody. 3-part live. Happy Friday. Please be safe out there while traveling and venturing on wherever you all plan on going and activities. Be aware of your surroundings. Mind the children. Once again, if you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Please speak up. You do not have to give your name, locale, just tell the information. And also, if you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign Big Angie, 129 Cash App, Stickers and Chats, and welcome during the live stream. 3-part live, everybody. Live now from Fox's source number 1. Thank you for joining me.
From Fox, I'm JonBenet Ramsey. We do have some breaking news coming through our studios right now. This does relate to the late Tupac Shakur. According to our content partners over at the Associated Press, Las Vegas police have arrested a man in that deadly 1996 drive-by shooting of Tupac Shakur, a long-awaited break-in for a case that has frustrated investigators and fascinated the public ever since the hip-hop icon was gunned down on the Las Vegas Strip 27 years ago. Dwayne Davis was arrested early this morning, although the exact charge or charges were not immediately clear, according to 2 officials with first-hand knowledge of the arrest. They were not authorized to speak publicly ahead of an expected indictment later today. Davis has been long known to investigators and has himself admitted in interviews and in his 2019 tell-all memoir titled Compton Street Legend that he was actually in the Cadillac where the gunfire erupted during that September 1996 drive-by shooting. Shakur was 25 when he was gunned down. This arrest comes 2 months after Las Vegas police raided his wife's home on July 17th in neighboring Henderson. Documents said police were looking for items that, quote, were concerning the murder of Tupac Shakur, end quote. Now, police reported collecting multiple computers, a cell phone, and hard drive, a Vibe magazine that featured Shakur, several .40 caliber bullets, 2 tubs containing photographs, and a copy of Davis's 2019 tell-all memoir. In the book, Davis said he broke his silence over Tupac's killing in 2010 during a closed-door meeting with federal and local authorities. At the time, he was 46 and facing life in prison on drug charges when he agreed to speak with authorities. He has described himself as one of the last living witnesses to the shooting. Again, this is breaking news here on Live Now from Fox, as they have made an arrest in that Tupac Shakur murder. The person arrested, Dwayne Davis. Of course, we will continue to follow this and give you the very latest as it relates to this case. But right now, let's head back out live on Unfiltered to Washington, D.C., and continue the very latest with this White House press briefing when just before the break they were speaking about that looming government shutdown.
All right, everybody. Live now, Fox is the source. Government shutdown in the state of Georgia. Prayers for our friends and family members and neighbors in Georgia. Tupac Shakur, murdered 1996. It is now 2023. It's so sad that it took this long, almost 30 years to get an arrest. You hear that this Mr. Davis had drug charges years ago and that he spoke privately with feds. So what we have to ask ourselves, 2010 until now is 13 years. Why are you all just now bringing forward an arrest? You could have arrested him on at least being an accessory and then furthered your investigation into other parties who possibly would have been arrested now. But he is stating he is the last of the Mohicans, so that means that the other people are decedent. What happened to the other participants that were in the car? Are they all dead? How did they die? I can use my better judgment to say most of them probably didn't die by natural causes because I don't know how many people were in the car. So that's point number one. How many were in the car? What was the motive? Was it because of the altercation inside of the fight, the arena? Or these people lied in wait for Mr. Tupac? Why was he the only one gunned down inside of the car? He was in a car with Mr. Suge Knight. Suge Knight never attested to who killed Tupac. He made this clear during an interview. I believe it was with Diane Sawyer or Barbara Walters many years ago. As he said, it wasn't for me to say. Now you see the fate of Mr. Suge Knight. Karma is a bitch. Yes, indeed. What will Mr. Suge Knight have to say now after this arrest of Keefe D is what they call him in the street? A cousin came forward to speak about knowing of this shooting and the suspect. We will get to that content here in a second. Implication of anybody else involved or had knowledge? Will Mr. Davis bring us the whole 411? Does he still have cancer? Because allegedly this is why he told this about this incident with this murder rather of Mr. Tupac. He had cancer. So which is it? You had cancer or you were facing the drug charges? I'm curious. Which came before the other one? The drug charges came first or the cancer came first? Black folks doing the most. Bullets, photos, hard drive, magazines, articles confiscated from his home or wife's home in July. So let's ask that. What's his name on the deed to the house? Is the house paid for? Mortgage payments? What? Renting? What? Just curious. I'm always curious. Dwayne Davis has been arrested in connection to the drive-by shooting murder of Tupac Shakur. I think it's sad that this crime went as long as it did, unsolved. And we know that the streets talk, and there's usually a little bit of truth to the gossip in the street. And this is what I have said to you in my content as of late, last night, the other night, pertaining to the young lady found floating in the Mississippi River, Tamia Taylor. There's always somebody that knows the truth. It's just a matter of who's going to tell it. And many of you would be shocked to hear that people do tell other people of their dirty business. Yeah, I did it. I buried them. I choked them. I did this. I helped. People aid in murders every day. People aid in attempted murders every day. People tell others that they did something. It's just a matter of who's going to tell it and when. And some of us who don't have murder on the brain would say, well, damn, why would a person tell they killed somebody, shot somebody, conspired to kill somebody? Why? So now I have some information. Authorities give update. We'll have to turn that on. 11 Alive. Hold on one second. Why? Why hold the secret? That's what I'm curious about. 1 second, everybody. Trying to see what's an update pertaining to the arrest. Welcome everybody in the chat. Yeah, somebody always knows. You wouldn't think that other people would know about a murder, but people can't hold water. So in the end, they're snitches. How about that? The people who kill, they're snitches. They may not tell the detective. The state's attorneys make a deal, but they pillow talk, as they call it in the street. They pillow talk to somebody. Yeah, I did that. I was in the car. I was with him. I carried the body. I did this. I carried the shovel. I took a lick, whichever. They just don't tell the authorities. The suspect has himself admitted in interviews and in his 2019 tell-all memoir that he was in the car where the gunfire erupted from when Tupac Shakur was killed. One of the last living witnesses to the fatal drive-by shooting of rapper Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas was charged with murder Friday in the 1996 killing, a long-awaited breakthrough in a case that has frustrated investigators and fascinated the public. So now some of you can stop talking about Tupac is alive. He's in Mexico, New Mexico. He ain't never been there, down there, alive. Stop the foolishness. You know that man is dead. Quit trying to resurrect folks. Elvis is dead. Tupac is dead. Biggie Smalls is dead. Shall I go on? Stop the foolishness now. Let me continue. Because you all have wore these dead folks' names out that they are alive. Tupac was too cocky to stay mum. I think anybody knows that. And if he was alive today, he would probably have the same attributes because he liked himself, obviously. So he wouldn't play dead because that wouldn't make no sense. You like yourself, you're talented, you want to stay in the music business, film business. Why would you fake your own death? Come on now, just stop the nonsense. So I'm glad someone has been arrested. Too long it took, but nonetheless, we have an arrest. Davis has long been known to investigators and has himself admitted in interviews and in his 2019 tell-all memoir, Compton Street Legend, that he was in the Cadillac from which the gunfire erupted during the September 1996 drive-by shooting. Giacomo described Davis as the on-ground, on-site commander who ordered the death of Shakur, who was killed at 25. So he wasn't just somebody in the car, goofing off, running around, hanging with his friends, innocent bystander, innocent witness. It says here, he ordered the death of Shakur. The charges were revealed hours after Davis, 60, was arrested this morning while on a walk near his home in the Las Vegas suburb of Henderson, according to Giacomo. And this is also the same place where the warrant was issued for the house, Henderson, Nevada. Just in case some of you are not in tune to the latest information of the search warrant that was exacted in July of this year. They were looking for items concerning the murder of Tupac Shakur. According to the search warrant, they collected multiple computers, cell phone, hard drive, a Vibe magazine that featured Shakur, several .40 caliber bullets, 2 tubs containing photographs, and a copy of Davis' memoir. It has often been said that justice delayed is justice denied. District Attorney Steve Wilson said after the hearing in a brief comment to the AP, in this case, justice has been delayed, but justice won't be denied, quote unquote. A grand jury has been evidence in the case for several months. So this has been in the making of the grand jury meeting to bring forward charges against Mr. Davis, obviously. Messages left Friday for his wife, Paula Clemens, also weren't returned. It wasn't immediately clear if Davis has an attorney who can comment on his behalf. Davis hasn't responded to multiple phone and text messages from the Associated Press seeking comment since the House raid. And once again, the wife, Miss Paula, has not commented either. On September 7, 1996, Shakur was in a BMW driven by Death Row Records founder Marion Suge Knight in a convoy of about 10 cars. They were waiting at a red light near the Las Vegas Strip when a white Cadillac pulled up next to them and gunfire erupted. Shakur was shot multiple times and died a week later. The rapper's death came as his fourth solo album, All Eyes on Me, remained on the charts with some 5 million copies sold. Nominated 6 times for Grammy Awards, Shakur is still largely considered one of the most influential and versatile rappers of all time. And I concur that. In his memoir, Davis said he was in the front passenger seat of the Cadillac and had slipped the gun used in the killing into the backseat from where he said the shots were fired. So he slipped the gun to the backseat. And the backseat, I guess, participants shot out of the window. Davis implicated his nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, saying he was one of 2 people in the back seat. Anderson, a known rival of Shakur, had been involved in a casino brawl with the rapper shortly before the shooting. Very interesting, because I've not kept up with the he said and the she said. I never read this book, never heard of this book, but here is the info, if you are to believe what he is saying. And my thing is, why lie on yourself knowing you could go to penitentiary? And I don't think you can get out of a drug charge and a murder charge just because you want to open your mouth and sell your soul to the devil to the district attorney to say, well, yeah, we killed that guy, that rapper, as if it's not important, just so you can get out of a drug charge. It's very disrespectful to the decedent. Let me continue. Anderson died 2 years later, obviously from that brawl with Tupac. He denied any involvement in Shakur's death. Let me repeat that again. Davis implicated his nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, says he was 2 of the people in the back seat, one of the 2. Anderson, a known rival of Shakur, had been involved in a casino brawl with the rapper shortly before the shooting. Anderson died 2 years later. He denied any involvement in Shakur's death. Do you have that on record that he denied it? On a video, audio, what? I'd like to hear it. After the casino brawl, Mr. Davis formulated a plan to exact revenge upon Mr. Knight and Mr. Shakur in his nephew's defense, D. Giacomo said. In his memoir, Davis revealed that he first broke his silence in 2010 during a closed-door meeting with federal and local authorities. At that time, he was 46 and facing life in prison on drug charges. He agreed to speak with them about Tupac's killing as well as the fatal shooting 6 months later of Tupac's rap rival, Biggie Smalls, also known as Notorious B.I.G. So what I want to know is, what did he have to say about Biggie Smalls? So what, you killed him too? What are you saying? So how in the hell do you think you're going to get out of going to prison or jail by talking about killing a man for no reason over some old silly ass fight, and then Biggie Smalls? So what did he admit to pertaining to Biggie Smalls? I'm curious. You're not really a street man, because a street man wouldn't be doing all this chitter chattering with feds. He would take his time. And if nobody can implicate me in a crime of murder, why in the fuck am I getting ready to go tell them I killed a guy? Make that make sense to me. Why would you tell? Well, how would he know that Puffy put a hit on him, Terry, if him and Puffy don't have any dealings with each other? He's on the West Coast. Puffy's on the East Coast. So how would he know? He's not friends with him. He don't hang with him. They ain't related. They ain't got friends of friends. So how would he know who the hell killed Biggie? I'm just saying. Because Biggie was shot on the west side of the coast, on the West Coast. But how would he know anything about it? But yes, as I said, I know the streets talk, but always bring a receipt. And if you ain't a snitch, then you ain't supposed to be talking to the feds or anybody else. That's why I find this information strange. You catch a drug charge, obviously you were going to be going down for a long time. So how do you think telling on yourself in a murder would help your drug charges? I'm confused. This is why you know this is an idiot. You ain't got too much street in you that you don't know how to count. Death and murder and orchestrated will possibly get you more time than your drug charges. I don't care if you had 2 keys under your bed. Stay woke now. The murder charge will possibly get you more time. But I guess it depends on state laws and what you plead to and what the state wants to offer. This is just ridiculous to me. Let me finish this commentary. Once again, he agreed to speak with them about Tupac's killing, as well as the fatal shooting 6 months later of Tupac's rap rival, Notorious B.I.G. Once again, what did he tell authorities about the death of B.I.G. and what did he tell exactly his role was in the killing of Tupac Shakur? They offered to let me go for running a criminal enterprise and numerous alleged murders for the truth about Tupac and Biggie murders. He wrote, they promised they would shred the indictment and stop the grand jury if I helped them out. Well, I be motherfucking damn. What you talking about, Willis? So the feds and the local authorities let him go? This is what he's saying. Willing to let him go from running a criminal enterprise, numerous alleged murders, for the truth about Tupac. Well, that makes no sense. You a dope man or a big dope man, or the middle dope man, and I'm gonna let you go just so you confess to me who killed Tupac and Biggie. What the fuck am I listening to? This is stupid. I can only see them letting you go if you set up somebody that's a kingpin, such as somebody like El Chapo. Pay attention to what I'm saying now. Was this man a big wheel? Because if you're a big wheel in the dope game, I want you regardless. The state would want you regardless, whether you killed somebody or not. You shot somebody or not. They would only give you a free pass if you are under a underboss. Like Gravano was under John Gotti. Everybody paying attention? So why in the world am I going to let you get a pass for murdering other people, murdering Tupac? You got knowledge of what happened to Biggie Smalls, plus whatever else hell you've been doing, plus your current drug charges. I'm just going to let you walk free. So then what was the point in even interrogating him and giving him a free pass to walk the streets to continue selling drugs? You want me to believe that after he met with the feds and authorities, he started working at the local Piggly Wiggly or the local California 7-Eleven? This is ridiculous. Now, who's going to step up and say, yes, this information that Keefe D is saying is the truth? Because you know damn well authorities and the FBI are not getting ready to admit they gave him a free pass for murdering people, Tupac, Pookie, Ray, whomever. This seems like to me, you would want him more for the murders than the actual drug trafficking. Help me understand. If I'm to believe what he is saying is the truth. Lord have mercy, the devil is a liar. Okay. He said they promised to shred the indictment and stop the grand jury if I help them out. Shakur was feuding at the time with rap rival Biggie Smalls, who was fatally shot in March 97, which was just a few months after Tupac died. At the time, both rappers were in the middle of an East Coast West rivalry that primarily defined the hip-hop scene during the mid-1990s. Greg Kading, a retired Los Angeles police detective who spent years investigating the Shakur killing and wrote a book about it, said he's not surprised by Davis' arrest. The former Los Angeles police detective said he believed the investigation gained new momentum in recent years following Davis's public descriptions of his role in the killing, including his 2019 memoir. It's those events that have given Las Vegas the ammunition and the leverage to move forward, Kading said. Prior to Keefe D's public declarations, the cases were unprosecutable as they stood. What the hell are you saying? 11 Alive is the source of this information. Why wasn't it prosecutable? A person tells you they were in the car when somebody got shot, or they admitted, and both, that they ordered the hit because of an argument between the nephew and Tupac, disagreement, whatever, and you let him ride on him giving you other information of other murders, plus the current drug charge. So I'm going to ask the DA, the detectives, the state's attorney's office, and the FBI, how did you get wind that Keefe D was in the car? I'll wait. How did you all know Keefe D was in the car? See, that's first and foremost. Somebody had to have known or seen the car. Now, if they weren't frequent flyers of Las Vegas, then a random person can't say, yeah, I know that was Keefe D and Pookie and Ray Ray in the car. They can only give a description. Oh, yeah, I saw the Cadillac pull up and shoot the car that Tupac was in. But I still don't know their name. So you'd either have to have written down the description of the car and got a tag number down. So I'm going to ask you one more fucking time. We're talking about almost 30 years later. You can count 96 to 2023. It's about 27 years. 27 years. A man has gone public with a memoir, talked to the feds and authorities behind closed doors, talked about it in 2010 and this 2019 bullshit with a book, and you all let him walk free. Because why? You should have taken him in. Because basically you were giving him a pass to murder people, continue to sell drugs, wreak havoc in the community. You were not talking about a child who just got in the dope game, running dope for his uncle, friend, the neighborhood dope dealer. You're talking about a grown-ass man who knew better. And he should have let his own nephew settle his differences with whomever. And you can't make me, as a 52-year-old woman, understand the logic behind a drug trafficker, murderer, murdering this man, then also has knowledge of another rapper's murder, to go free just because he had pending drug charges. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. So now, Mr. Suge Knight, big boy crybaby, what do you have to say now about this arrest? Will you give an interview with somebody while incarcerated about the shooting of your so-called friend protege, Tupac? You see, you can claim death. This is why it's not good to sing and rap about dying, shooting the police, getting shot, falling out with Pookie, Ray Ray, another rapper, talking in code, dry snitching, however you want to word it. Let's stop doing that. See, Tupac talked about death a lot. And death found him. Fucking around in a casino with some other street folks. See, the world is uncivilized. It was uncivilized then. It's uncivilized now. It will continue to be uncivilized until God breaks up the earth and it is no more. People are just ignorant. They have nothing better to do but bang, bang, shoot them up, rob, steal. It's got to stop. I don't knock anybody's hustle, but when you decide you want to start plotting against man and woman and child, then I have a problem with you. Because killing should not be a part of the dope game. Killing people because you had an argument with them. But that's the whole point. Men don't settle their differences as regular folk. And the fact that this man says he's met with authorities and he still walked free, I got a problem with that. So now people will start to question anything that goes on judicially. Because who the fuck is this man to be walking free from killing people? Rapper or no rapper? You had to have been using him. That's what it looks like. Because in the end, this Mr. Davis is nobody special. So you had to have been using him to work the streets, get money, set up people, because why would you let him go free if he has murdered people, murdered a rapper, got knowledge of another rapper? It makes no sense. You've got to be getting something out of the deal. State's Attorney's Office, FBI. You had to have been using him. He had to have signed his name on the dotted line that he will be a gopher donkey for the government. And if you stupidly did that, you a dumbass. Because you can't trust anybody that would use you to snitch on somebody. They will give up your fucking name to the public. This is how people end up in dumpsters. Somebody leaves the room, tells another rival, hey, we got Davis working for us. He gave you up. He gave up Pookie, Ray Ray, Bubba, Corleone's name. Now there's a hit out on this man. I'm surprised he's even still walking around. Does he still have cancer? How about that? This is ridiculous. And if this is true, the government and the state's attorney's office and the local police departments in LA, Vegas, wherever, you all got to stand account for this bullshit here. Now, I don't know what the Las Vegas Police Department knew about this Keefe D guy, but definitely California. And I had heard during the documentary, they knew who killed him. And I thought that was strange. Well, what do you mean you know? Well, if you know, go pick him up. So now ain't nobody left but Mr. Davis. So now we got to ask the wife, what has Mr. Davis told you, ma'am? Did he tell you he killed that man and other people? Will she now be testifying against her husband? Woo, when I say there's a leak in this old building. Prayers to the mother of Mr. Tupac, any children, relatives, real friends, and the community itself. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $McGangie, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats, and welcome to the live stream. Make this content go viral. I will put up a poll pertaining to this new arrest. We're going to chop it up during this live stream. Feel free to interject at any time of the 3 subject matters. This is a 3-part live. Second storyline, JonBenet. Thank you for joining me. One moment, please. News Nation is my second source. These were the people I was trying to think of earlier when I got tongue-tied and couldn't think. My memory is getting shorter and shorter which is not good for doing this type of content I bring to this network. But I thank you for following me and listening. Welcome all new subs and guests, old subs, guests, viewers. Thank you. 3-part live. News Nation has something to say about JonBenet. What is going on now? Always some smoke in the city.
Private investigator Jason, thank you so much for your time. After so much time, it's almost assumed that a case like this has gone cold, but based on this new info, it really does seem that investigators are taking this seriously, really decades later.
Thanks, Nicole, for having me on. Yes, you're right. It sounds like recent news developments reveal that 5 pieces of evidence had never been previously tested or being looked at now. So it's not surprising that new DNA technology has advanced the process. We've known for a couple of years now that, in light of the Golden State Killer, that doing FIG, which is a forensic investigative genetic genealogy, has been causing some cold cases to be solved. So we're hoping they're going down that pathway. What's significant about going the route of genetic genealogy is they basically have to start over, because the former process of using COVID required them to have one format style where it's STR. Here they need SNPs in order to proceed with a genetic genealogy.
All right, so Jason, a lot of this is coming from sources. And sources are saying that there are several new people on the radar, but after so much investigation, so many years at this point, how likely is it that the culprit would be some new, potentially random person?
Well, it's always possible that you could get a new suspect, from recent developments in other cases where genetic genealogy was used. They could go from having no suspect, no person of interest, to all of a sudden solved. So it's highly likely that they can, reach a conclusion with genetic genealogy. It really depends on what sample, how reliable the sample is that they're using. Maybe it was contamination. This is a 27-year-old case nearly, and any handler DNA can certainly come across as being a suspect until it's matched with the provider. We don't know if it's suspect DNA or just some handler that contaminated at some point in the evidentiary process.
Jason, you mentioned the fact that this is nearly a 27-year-old case. You are a private investigator. Talk about how difficult it is to conduct an investigation when so much time has passed, when people involved, may have died, may have become incapacitated, or someone who saw something may not just remember clearly at this point.
Yes. As a cold case investigator myself, but in the private sector, we see oftentimes a case that goes stagnant, goes cold, and sometimes it takes just somebody who thinks that they don't know anything about the case, or what they know is irrelevant. If they come forward, it oftentimes makes a case break, because it takes something like somebody acting bizarre, somebody making a drunken statement that may seem unimportant to somebody, but to law enforcement who has all the pieces of the puzzle may actually know the significance of such a statement and then connect the dots.
Well, before we let you go, Jason, do you think we'll ever really know what happened that day and really know who did kill JonBenet?
Yes, I do. I think this is a very solvable case. We have not just the potential of DNA solving the case, but the biggest piece of this case, the puzzle that we all are familiar with, is that ransom note. If you can match the handwriting to the author, you might have your solve.
We certainly hope that you are correct and this case is ultimately solved. Private investigator Jason Jensen, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to
News Nation. Jason Jensen asked the guest, who killed JonBenet? JonBenet, pretty little girl, living in a grown-up's world of competition, of looks. We've heard such horrible things with pageantry, the treatment of the children from the coaches, neurotic parents wanting their children, girl children, to be winners, chosen. And it can produce a not so nice little girl, resentful of being put up on this pedestal to perform and act and prance around on stage. Become cocky because your horn has been tooted a lot by your parents, family members. Many documentaries have been made about this case. You're entitled to your opinion of who you think harmed this child. I don't know what to think. Who are the new persons of interest? Were items contaminated by those who gathered the items? The detectives, the forensic team, the people in the lab. You're supposed to be wearing gloves, so I don't understand how it could be contaminated. You're supposed to put each item in a separate bag and label it. So how are you getting cross-contamination? Help me understand. Why is it taking so long to get a killer of this girl child? Who had access to the house? Did they normally keep their door open, closed, locked? Windows secure? Was it the son? Was it the mother? Was it the father? Was it a guest staying at the house? I thought they said they had a guest staying there, a nephew or somebody. This is ridiculous too. Well, one reason why most people don't think it's a guest, well, let me say an outsider intruder, unsolved mystery, is because why am I going to write a long-winded letter for ransom? And the ransom number is the identical number that he had got as a bonus, Mr. Ramsey. And you have to admit that is very peculiar. When I heard that information, I think I heard that probably a year ago. I was kind of stunned myself. What are the odds of a stranger walking in a house and asking for a ransom amount equal to what I just received myself from my company? Oh, wait. How would somebody have this information? We didn't have social media then. All you had was MySpace. So I'm supposed to believe Mr. Ramsey jumped on MySpace and announced to the world how much money he had gotten from his employer or what he's supposed to be receiving. And then voila, magic, somebody sneaks into their house without breaking in and assaults their child and murder her. Stay woke. Would a boy child be swift enough to put that dollar amount on a letter after murdering his sister? So you have to weigh all the information that's been given to you. How did the perpetrator get in the house? These people lived a decent life. I would assume they would want to have surveillance cameras on the outside of their house. Did they not have surveillance cameras? If not, why not? Are they the type of people that lock their doors? Many people live in great neighborhoods. They don't lock their doors, going in and out of patio doors, side doors, garages. But common sense should tell you, no matter where you live, you should have security, doorbell cameras, alarms in your windows, because there's always somebody watching. You'd be surprised the people who will sit and gape and gaze through their windows at you. Somebody knows when you went to work, when you came home, what shopping bags you had. You can get a telescope and put it in the window and watch and get a bullseye view of what you are doing. And some would say, well, who would do that? It's not a who. It's a why. There is no privacy. As I said, I have never heard that anyone broke into the house, such as jimming a door, jimming a window. And how would a person be so clever to get in a house and not literally break in and get away with this crime? So now we have to ask, in this content play by News Nation, who are these persons of interest? Family members, strangers, neighbors, people that work with Mr. Ramsey, who are they speaking of? Many people thought the parents were behind this. Many people thought the son was behind this. The penmanship on the letter, was it eerily similar to the mother's penmanship? I thought I heard that a while back. Definitive match or no? Is it the fact that perhaps the people in the town police department didn't want to assume these people had anything to do with the death of this little girl? They looked nice, pretty little girl, basic two-door home, nice neighborhood. Nah, they couldn't have done this. Even if evidence pointed to the fact that one of them possibly did and there was a cover-up. Nah, we don't want to arrest these people. They're good people. They've never been in trouble, don't have a criminal record, criminal background, no DHS calls, no nefarious dealings or businesses with outsiders, no drug trafficking, drug usage. You see where I'm going. Maybe the police department just didn't want to have the hassle of implicating these people, even if the evidence showed that possibly they did it, but they didn't want this man suing them if the evidence couldn't stand against he, the wife, or the son. So it got put on the back burner. You're entitled to your opinion pertaining to who killed this little girl and justice not being served if indeed it was somebody in that house that killed her. My last conversation is pertaining to Jacqueline and Trezell West. Thank you for joining me. We're going to go back in time. Okay. 1 second. Why didn't she turn on her husband? I'm curious. Why did she wait till after a guilty verdict to try to slither her way out of doing prison time? Let me see something here.
She doesn't know why her other children would lie. Ryan saying Giselle. After being grilled for hours over her story of how Orrin and Orson went missing, detectives in a video recording asked Jacqueline West why she wasn't shedding a tear. That's when Jacqueline told him that the feeling was different than if it were her biological children. On Thursday, prosecutors continued playing recordings of authorities interviewing Jacqueline the day after Orrin and Orson were reported missing. Detective John Ryan continuously stating her story isn't matching any other reports and that it conflicts with what her other children have said. And everyone they've spoken to has said they haven't seen the boys since November. Jacqueline repeats to the officers that she doesn't know why her other children would lie, saying that she has nothing to hide and tells them to search. After interviewing her once, Ryan testified that they then interviewed Trezell. Ryan saying Giselle's story didn't match what Jacqueline told them, and they decided to question her again. In the second interview, Jacqueline becomes more and more frustrated as detectives refuse to believe her. Along with the video and Detective Ryan, other witnesses called to the stand today included Trezell's brother, the boy's biological father, a digital forensics detective, and the CPS worker who took the initial report that night. The trial is set to resume at 9 a.m. Friday. For 23 ABC News, I'm Veronica Morley, connecting you.
All right, that's ABC News, KERO. So you hear that she was upset at the interrogation process. Well, naturally, she's going to be upset because she knows she's guilty and she doesn't want to answer the questions. But what I'm trying to figure out, why would this attorney, Ms. Torres, wait until the last minute, Stallings, to try to get this lady less time in prison? She lost her family, her kids, her husband, everything she knows. But that's a choice. Because when we go back in time and listen to the interview that they gave the news, she stood there complicit with whatever happened to the children. So I don't understand getting a guilty verdict and then your lawyer wants to try to postpone the sentencing by bringing forward some type of information. So I'd like to know, what is it that Ms. Stallings brought into the court to try to get the judge to say, okay, yeah, she's a victim? What was that information? Because I haven't heard. She was a victim. So what? So what are you saying? She was beat up, hurt, physically abused, verbally abused. She went along with whatever. 2 killings of children. She feared for her life. He threatened her. Allegedly, they threatened the kids. Told the kids don't talk. The family be split up. But when you listen to the interview, you can see she's complicit before an arrest. Because she didn't get arrested until the following year, really into going into the next year. What was her role in the demise of the children? Because I do not believe they're alive. You have testimony from her eldest child that one of the children was cold to the touch. This was at the Bakersfield apartment. They believe that older child died first. Second child died second. The youngest child died second in Cal City. And as you hear the state attorney speak, they possibly got rid of the second child because he couldn't make it and cope without the older brother. And I don't doubt that. Probably was crying a lot, whining a lot, acting out, asking questions. He can talk, he can ask questions. They were tired of him talking, asking questions. But see, what makes no sense about that is the obvious. You have taken pictures of yourselves with the children. So wouldn't your parents, family members, brothers, sisters, whomever, ask you where this child is? You report these kids missing right before the holidays, before Christmas. Maybe that was the reason for killing the second one. But then it still won't explain the first one, which was months before, allegedly in September. See, none of it makes any sense because really it doesn't matter when you kill the kids. Near Halloween, Christmas, Easter, somebody's going to wonder, where is that kid at? She had no photographs of the children, videos, data to show that they were breathing, gathering, family members. Why not? That's first and foremost. 2, getting rid of either child. Somebody's going to notice that child not around. Video, Skyping, chatting, taking family photographs. People asking, hey, come over for a barbecue, a party, a function. 1 child missing 2. So what did you tell people who inquired about the first child? Jacqueline, Trezell. I'm curious. What'd you say about the second one missing? So I believe the parents know more. Both sets of parents. What did they tell their parents when each child went missing? Because at some point, somebody has to realize a child was missing. And as I said, why did she wait till the last minute to try to free herself from accountability? You should have done that when they first started questioning about the children and they got handed over to Bakersfield. You should have known what time of day it was then. Oh, the children have said something. They told the detectives something about the boys. So your mind should have been in rotation then, Jacqueline, Trezell. He's stoic in court, staring off into space. She's looking like a lost puppy, realizing I have effed up. I have killed these 2 kids conspired to kill these kids, whatever her role was, and now I'm not coming out of here. That's the look she has on her face, or had on her face while sitting in the courtroom. Looking destitute. And you would look destitute, I would suppose, because you don't want to be in there. But this is the role you chose and the road you chose to ride on with your husband. So why did she wait until the last minute? This is what I'm very curious about. This victimization business. She was a victim too. Victim how? This is so disrespectful to the children. But are we surprised that she would say she was a victim? Because she rode a ride with the husband to get rid of these kids, lied to the public, fake 911 call. She's a monster too. She has no empathy. And you can't love this child and don't love that child. Because I believe she made a comment to a detective during interrogation about the behavior of the children. Or to the effect of, the love ain't the same. Whether you should have never took them in. Because if you can't love your adopted children, foster children, the same as you love your biological children, then you should have never took those kids into your home, period. And I was thinking today about the children. They had to have been 2 and 1 when they first went into their custody. That's a long time for bio parents not to have gotten their act together to get the children back. Same thing with the Wells. All of your children have been missing and taken by the state 2 years now. One we believe to be deceased, which is Summer Wells, and your boy children in the state's care. Why are they still gone? See, those are the questions you should ask. Why is it taking you so long to get your kids back? And I've also wondered, do the bio family feel any guilt that they didn't do what they needed to do to get the children back, so they would have never ended up with Jacqueline and Trezell West? Because it don't take no year to get no kids back. Because all they want to know is that you're not using drugs, drinking, take classes, go to work, keep a place to live. You can't abide by those certain criteria, then one, you don't need no children, and the state don't need to give you your children. Point blank. And as you heard the attorney say, state's attorney, the children going from place to place, place to place. It's a terrible life for a child. Trying to adhere to this person's rules, this person's rules. Getting knocked around, talked down to, mistreated. One child's missing, now one's left. Up, knock him off too. But they're not thinking about the end game. How are you going to explain where the children are? And that's where they messed up. And I've often wondered also the motive for killing child number 1. If the children weren't killed same day. Why did they murder the eldest boy first? Had he become too rambunctious, they murdered him. Now try to explain that with baby number 2. So both were rambunctious? So that's why I said it doesn't really matter if they killed them at the same time, killed them separate times. It's deliberate. Because you can't explain it logically, whether it was 2 kids killed the same day, 2 killed separate times. And why those 2? You want us to believe your other boy children were great, terrific, well-mannered children, but yet they're boys. And boys can be rambunctious, active, disobedient, girl children as well. And if that's your remedy for a disobedient child, allegedly, then my goodness, a lot of people shouldn't be alive. You disobeyed me, now I'm going to kill you. You won't sit still. I'm going to kill you. I can't imagine what the children endured in the short years they were with these people. And as I said, a child has every right to be fed up of their surroundings because they are people too, and they are human. And I won't doubt that these children were fed up of Jacqueline, Trezell, and possibly the other children. Who's to say that the other children weren't picking on them, teasing them? That's what I thought was in the indictment, is that the children aided into killing these babies. Maybe I misunderstood the information. But some of us thought that the children aided into the deaths of these small babies. So let's ask that question. How did the children die? Where were the children discarded? Where are they now? Will these two turn on each other and tell the truth somewhere down the line? But what I tell myself is, if they know that they have a chance to get out of prison after 15 years, it would be foolish for them to say where the children are. Because then a person could definitely deny them parole when they go up for parole. So I'll keep my mouth closed so I can try to get out of this prison after 19 years. I think that's exactly what they'll do. They won't tell anyone. They won't talk about it in the prison walls. They won't talk about it in any interviews that the prison allows them to give. They won't put it in any type of letter. Let me do my 19 first so I can get out of here, hoping the parole board will show me favor. She looked jacked up in court. That foot in the trap look. Woe is me. But you and Trezell chose your own fate. Nobody held a gun to your head. To murder these children for whatever reason. I often wondered, was the state still coming around asking to see the children, visit the children? Were they taking the children to appointments? We hear that DHS was never involved in any type of questioning of the children when the children were alive. No investigations against them. So what was the motive to kill both kids? Is it just an issue? One got out of control. They lost control, killed the child, either one, either parent. And then the second baby was whining and moaning and crying for the other. So they knocked him off too. What was the motive? Because if the state wasn't involved in investigating him for any type of improprieties against the children, what was the motive for child number one? Then child number two. And just the thought of children being in a house where children are murdered and having to cover it up, witness certain things pertaining to the death, mistreatment of the children is so cruel. Why would you want to subject your other children to this? But this goes to show you they don't care. They're narcissists. They're psychopaths. Oh, they'll get over it. But what you're doing is teaching them to be your part two. A repeat of what you've done to these children. You're teaching the other children to be demons. Let's go back in time to the interview. 1 second, please. Jacqueline and Trezell West's first interview with the news pertaining to the disappearance of their boy children. First and last interview ever given. Why is that? See, the proof was there all along that you had harmed the children, that they were never sold, never kidnapped by an outsider, pedophile, or biological family members. And naturally, that was mentioned by the state, that the defense felt as if possibly a pedophile or the biological people took the children. You know, at some point, somebody would have came forward to say the biological family had the boys. Come on now. They would have been able to hide them that well. KGET News is the source.
We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We've felt so helpless. And seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot.
So, tell us what happened the night of Tupac.
Okay.
In my yard.
It was cold. I was gonna be on fire. So a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I went up to that gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea. And our youngest two, go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. Keep them close. So I was playing with chalk. And I came to the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them there. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them. So I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house with my wife. Once that hadn't panned out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, most directions. It was getting dark, getting cold. And I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see them. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there, and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves, and I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching, and we appreciate it. And nobody ever could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue.
We just want to thank everybody.
We really want to thank you guys.
Please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know.
Call the cops, call California City Police Department. Call them and let them know what you've seen, if you see anything. Our boys, they are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here in this area. And I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if make sure. That's it. Because I don't, go ahead, I'm sorry. If you got any questions.
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay.
I was just going to say, this is the first time we're hearing from you guys, and I can't imagine what you guys are going through. I can't even fathom it. For you guys, for people who are thinking that there's some kind of foul play involved, we just spoke to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys, and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved. That she thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
That's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want is to find our babies. That's it. And I talked to her this morning, and I really wanted to tell her that I'm completely sorry because we were entrusted with her children, and it became us, and they became our children. And we named them, and they are our children, and so we want them back. So please,
our children want them back.
What you guys are doing, we should be able to get a hold of somebody, but they took all of our texts. So They wanted to, I guess, just rule us out, which makes sense. That's part of the investigation. So that's pretty much it.
Have you guys, you talked to the police a lot?
Yes.
What, so you guys willfully gave them your.
Everything.
keys,
Yes,
The car,
yes.
did they get, how did they get a search warrant? Did you
I
guys-
don't see why they got one, but they got one. We
Yeah,
would
they
have let them
didn't
take
do mine,
anything.
but
We would have take everything. We let them come in and search with us. We asked them to come do that.
What did they take?
Just tech. And that's it.
Just
Like our
tech.
phones.
Just tech.
From the house and everything?
Should I answer that?
Answer that, yeah.
Okay, so until the, okay, and I guess, I don't even know.
I see. Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Again, we were told the best are out here looking already, just to stay put. They have more questions. There was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down, we would ask him to go help, they had to sit
And
down.
nope.
We said, no, we got the best out there.
So
We need
it's
you
not,
guys here to get you other
I want you guys thinking
We
we
don't.
didn't try. We actually
We
looked
tried.
before we called.
We looked, yes.
And imagine the mind-boggling part is the search for information. What happened? Where are you?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
And we're, yeah,
And just so we are able to present the information correctly, at what time did you guys notice your kids were missing? And at what time were they reported missing to the police?
it's about, I believe, I think it was about 4:30, going on 5, it was getting dark, like I said, 5-ish. That's about it. That's when everything played out.
And then when did you guys call the police to report them missing?
After we searched
Yeah,
a little bit around here, it was dark, so we definitely we got worried.
Would you say it was maybe within an hour, a couple hours?
no, it was within minutes of us getting finished with our search. It was within minutes.
What do you guys want people at home to understand about this situation? For them, even speaking about what you guys are feeling is difficult. What do you want them at home to understand about the situation?
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own, their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure, like everything, we're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them, or anything, please call the police department.
Would you like to provide a picture, or do you have any?
I have older pictures. All my newest were on my phone.
A lot of people are speaking of this as, after the math, past tense. I want to talk about your case of present tense. What kind of boys are these? Tell us about the boys.
Very playful, very rambunctious, and they do love to wrestle. They do love to kind of get rough with each other.
Kids.
They're kids. Of course, they would love to go out, but so during the pandemic, we weren't trying to go, out here, and so we stayed inside. Yes, we did. We searched before we called the cops. That's what we were saying. They came missing right before it got dark. And then we called, I searched that property. I even drove around this neighborhood right here. I even talked to a gentleman on that side, one of those streets over there. I said, did you see some little black kids? And that's the way I was gonna come, but when I came back home, I decided to call the cops because it was dark. They couldn't have got away that fast.
And why did it take two people to go in the house? Every two kids walking by themselves. It should have been one parent going in and one parent right here watching the child, not two parents going in the house.
Oh,
and leaving
so
two little kids out here by themselves for 10 minutes.
no, they were in the backyard. And the back gate was
out the backyard.
and the back gate was open, and I was getting wood
So
from
you
this
guys
lot
are
there.
being unresponsible and left the gate open. Left some little kids outside with the gate open.
All right. Sorry, you guys were talking about your boys. parents who you're, I understand. For a mother, a mother's intuition, I know you were saying, and we'll get your names after this, but you were saying how you feel like they're in this area. Do you feel the same way? And what is the intuition? What is the sense you get? What do you think happened to your boys? Do you think someone took them? Do you think they're lost? Do you think?
Yeah, I definitely know they're not walking around. They're not that kind. They do not just roam around. You know, these patches, they definitely, I think definitely would have been picked up or something.
That was my assumption.
Have they ever taken off?
No.
They've never taken off?
No.
Picked up. Wouldn't roam around. You see, those reporters wanted to interject because the family, biological family members were there asking questions about leaving them alone. Two people being inside. One should have been outside. One should have been inside. Very interesting information. Just going back to the past. 1 second, please. During this interview, you see Jacqueline rocking back and forth. She's nervous. And imagine 2020 hindsight. She and Trezell obviously didn't think their children were ever going to speak about what happened in those lonely, desperate months of conspiring to kill children, hiding evidence, so on and so forth. They didn't think their children were ever going to speak, obviously. He mentions the word rambunctious pertaining to the boys 2 times. And the first time when he mentions rambunctious, he goes, ugh. Like he's upset right then. Just having to talk about him. See, he's telling you then he had did something to the children. That they irked him, her. Got on their nerves. They were a hassle. They were rambunctious. Too much to handle. Ugh. Oh, were you trying to clear your throat, Trezell? Nah, you were telling us what it was like taking care of those kids. They had become a burden to you too. Too much to handle. That was obvious. You felt helpless, she says. You all helped a lot coming in to help find the children. Before he decided to give his rendition of what happened, he says, okay. That's something you say to a person when you already know they don't believe what you're saying. Or they're angry with what happened in a situation. Pay attention now. Has somebody ever said that to you in a jacked up situation? Okay, just listen. Okay. Okay means I know shit ain't right. Because they knew what happened to the boys. And there was no running off, kidnapping. This is our orchestrated story. Here we go. Bear with us. Hope you believe us. See, Trezell was telling on himself. Okay. Grunting. After saying rambunctious. They were tired of the children. He has to gasp every time he spoke. Why? Because he's lying. You know, like somebody sickly on a respirator trying to take in all the air they can get. Back and forth. This lady rocks. Swinging around like she's on a merry-go-round. Looking around, looking at the people, looking to see who's believing these lies. Who's going to believe these lies? Nobody. But, you know, naturally, people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's your first time speaking to the public about your children missing. We don't know them. We don't know they've been abusing those kids. We're just listening. Talking about what the children wouldn't do, says Jackie. They wouldn't go out, wouldn't run around, ain't that tight. They ain't that tight because you probably let them play outside, pandemic or no pandemic. How about that? So yeah, they wouldn't wander about. And when he talks about them being on the back patio and not going past the gate, see, he was telling you then they weren't kidnapped. Took them outside to play on the patio, to play with chalk. So they wouldn't go past here, over there, to the gate. See, he was telling you everything you need to know. That's why I always tell you to listen to the information. If you have to play the video 1,000 times, keep playing it. Because what did I tell you about the truth? It's at the beginning of the story. Not the end, not the middle. The truth is always at the beginning of the version that the culprits give. And they were telling on themselves during this interview and thereafter, because they never gave another public interview or did another search of the children after this initial interview. And why would you not search, rally, talk, discuss your missing children? Because you're the ones that got them missing. And you got rid of them for a reason. So it would make no sense to talk, rally, search for something you wanted gone in the first damn place. Checkmate. They tell you that the police told them not to search. Stay inside. We got the best working. Stay in. Although they wanted to help, they said, we wanted to. Seriously, we wanted to go out, but they told us to stay in, to talk to us. He wanted to go into other people's homes, but he didn't want to invade their privacy. Yeah, how convenient. He says he spoke to the bio mom that morning, and she feels like they did something to the children. And she says, oh, naturally, I can understand her feeling that way, says Jackie. Why did the bio mom feel like they had done something? I'm curious. Never looked for the children after this interview. Never talked about the children to the public or the news after this interview. Why is that? Why was there no murder charge rendered by the jury for Classic? Because you can't have one without the other. You see, it's not like we're talking about one missing child. You have two. So you can render guilty for one, but abuse for the other. Makes no sense because both have never been found. So why wouldn't you use deduction to say they killed both of the children? I'm very curious to that finding in court. Very curious to that finding. We're going through it, they say. You weren't going through anything. Jackie says there are a lot of assumptions about what happened, but they don't know. Oh, yeah. You were right. We didn't know. Because you knew. They don't know what we did. Basically, that's what you're trying to say. Y'all don't know what we did to them kids. Reporter asked about any pictures. Do you have any pictures of the children? Well, they took our devices. I got older ones. The newer ones are on my phone. So where would the older ones be? Are those the ones that were on the phone that you were speaking of to the reporter, Jackie? Yeah, I got older ones on the phone because after we killed them, hell, I wasn't going to be keeping no pictures of them damn children. Which, that's where you fucked up too. By not keeping pictures of the children. And naturally, you can't take pictures of something that don't exist. So if you kill one in September, you can't photograph him in September, October, November, December. And then you knock the next one off when you got over to that plantation out there in the damn desert. So you can't produce no pictures of him either. So then we got to ask, did you actually have any photographs of the damn children in your devices? The state says nothing past September. Imagine that. So possibly she had pictures of the children, but nothing from September on to December when reporting the children missing. Once again, Trezell West says rambunctious during this interview because he's letting you know what he thought of the children scene. So I always tell you to listen to the information. Listen to the wording, the posture, the movement, facial expressions, especially when they don't have a mask on, if they're stuttering, jaw clenching, eye movement, rapid blinking, all of that. Nervousness from guilt. We didn't let them go outside because of the pandemic. But like I said, I don't think you were the type to let your children go out anyway because there's something damn wrong with you too. How did these people think that their children would not tell on them? This is what's crazy to me. And the circumstances from how the children got gone and not seeing them last, what their lives were like in the house. I'd like to hear those interviews of what the children's lives were like living with Jacqueline and Trezell West. They said they feel like the children were in the area. Or no, not in the area. Picked up, rather. Somebody picked them up. See, they were just throwing out anything. You knew they weren't in the area because you killed one somewhere else, Bakersfield. I don't know what you did with the second child. Yeah, she says they're not around there, not around here. Somebody picked them up, took them. But nobody picked up the children because your child said that one of the children was cold to the touch in the Bakersfield apartment. And the second one, which would be classic, the baby, he got there to the new home and was only there a short while. Why did they kill these children? Because in the end, as I just said, you have to have known that somebody was going to inquire about the children, number one. Your children would talk about the children, tell something about the kids. The baby would miss his brother. You knock the first one off, knock off the second one. Children will be asking about the children. Children might start talking about whatever they saw you do to the children. This is what makes me so sick. Is that you had no regard for children, period. You continue to try to raise the other children while you've murdered these other kids. You didn't think that nobody was going to ask about the children, whether they gave a damn or not. It's just principle. People ask. Hey, how are the boys? Hey, what are they doing? Hey, let me see them. What were you going to say when the first one went missing? See, this is why I know Wanda knew something. Because Wanda went to that house. It's in the affidavit. She went to that house while you all were transitioning to Cal City. So if one of the children was killed in September, what did you tell Wanda where that child was? I'll wait. So this is why I keep trying to tell people, there's always somebody that knows the dirty dealings. It's just a matter of will he or she speak up, tell the truth. Because if they were in the lives of their parents, or he dealt with his mom and daddy, they took their children over there, holidays, this and that, out to eat. Why am I going to believe all of a sudden ain't nobody going to be asking questions about these boys? Of course she asks. So I'm going to ask Jacqueline and Trezell West, what version did you give Mommy Dearest to where your children were? I think December was the jump off point of saying, well, the holidays are coming. Brother may be coming in from DC. Everybody's going to be gathering at this place, that place. We got to come up with something. We've got to come up with something. Because how are we going to explain 2 now gone? See, explaining 1, oh, Susie Mae picked him up. He's over her house. But how long are you going to keep saying the 1 is gone with Susie Mae? Now you got to say number 2 is gone. Child number 2 is gone. That wasn't going to fly. And you knew it wasn't going to fly. So you had to come up with this ruse that the children were missing from the back patio, that they were kidnapped. They didn't run away, as you said, because they ain't that tight. So Jacqueline said, they ain't that tight. They ain't that tight because you probably kept an iron fist on their necks, literally. When we learned your tactics of restraint, pressing your legs over a child's legs and body to keep them silent, quiet. You a mean MF, Jacqueline. And even if you are a petite female, your weight is still heavier on a 3 or 4-year-old. So now I have to ask, did you use that method with the other 2 adopted children and your own biological children? Things didn't go your way. They were allegedly misbehaving, weren't doing this, weren't doing that. I'll just wrap my legs around their body, hold them down. One child said you did it for about an hour. You should have been numb and tired after an hour of doing it your damn self. But see, this is what was going on in that house. Brutality. And I won't doubt they abused all the damn kids. Why just stop at the 2? So no telling what those children witnessed living in that house. And I agree with what the state's attorney said about the baby missing his brother, probably whining and crying, asking for his brother, and they couldn't have it. They weren't going to tolerate the whining and the crying. And who's to say the other children weren't whining and crying for the other children? Maybe they were asking, well, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Maybe they started repeating things that they didn't want to get out of the house. Yeah, we got to get rid of the second one. Kids, everybody's talking too much, asking too many questions. But as I said before at the beginning of this conversation pertaining to Jacqueline, I found it disrespectful that her attorney would try to get her off on probation because she's lost everything. Well, Trezell lost everything too, but this is a evenly yoked union. They stood at this press conference or talking to the public evenly, in cahoots together, which means they have knowledge of what happened to the children together. And they stood by each other until the very end. So I also like to know, how did he feel about her lawyer saying she was a victim? Because you basically were turning on him at the end during sentencing. You ain't said nothing during trial, but you wait till you get a guilty verdict. Now it's, oh, I'm a victim. A victim how? Because in order to be a victim, you've got to tell how you've been victimized. So enlighten me. What happened to you in that house with Mr. Trezell that you would wait to go through an entire trial to play the victim? You had ample enough time to get some empathy from somebody that you had no involvement in the disappearance or deaths of these children and say that he was abusing you mentally, physically, verbally, whichsoever. Your children, whomever. You could have laid it on thick, made up some stuff. And maybe somebody would have favored you. Whether you said, yeah, I know where the kids are. Yeah, I know where they at. Or I don't know what he did with them, but I just went along with it. I wasn't home when the children came up missing. He told me they was over here. The bio mom came and got them, or the daddy came and got them, or the gate was open. You could have played the role like you had no knowledge, but you didn't even do that because you were right there, right along with Trezell. You rolled the ride in the abuse, and you rode it up until the verdict. because you had ample enough time to, one, leave him. If he was abusive to you, you could have taken the kids and left them. So there would have never been this murdering of children. But you liked him. You favored him. You loved him. And that's why you stood and rode the ride. But it sunk in when you got the guilty verdict months ago. I'm going to die in prison. Hell no, I got to say something. And I'm sure he felt real crunchy. Damn, she going to wait till sentencing to try to turn on me? So what does Trezell have to say about that? That his loving wife tried to portray herself as a victim and wanted probation. But the judge let her know, you got a fair trial. I've heard everything you had to say. You're going to get sentenced alongside your husband because you were there, ma'am. You have guilty knowledge of what happened to the children. And once again, I'm going to say for the record, the jury did a disservice to the baby boy. Because as I said, you can't have one without the other. They're both missing, reported missing, a ruse to the police. A boy child tells that the children went missing in the house. One was cold to the touch. So if one was cold to the touch and one went missing a month or two later, why are you assuming that one's just mysteriously walking around on planet Earth? Nobody has seen the children, brought forward information to the children being alive, and yet you would just sentence them to a abuse charge. Find them guilty of abuse of one other boy child. It's disrespectful. The other 4 children are alive. Well, that should have told you something there. That both were dead. Because I said it. I'm going to keep saying it. You can't have one without the other. She had a sick look on her face all during trial. Trezell stared off into space. They knew the bang was coming. That's why they were looking like that in court. Now, you see a lot of defendants who will smile and you know, chum up with their attorneys and wave at their family in the courtroom and, you know, be chipper, knowing there's a possibility that they could die in prison and or get the death penalty. Not these two. They wore that face. I was going to say shame, but they don't feel any shame. Woe is me. They're going to let us die in here. Yep. That's it. But what would be jacked up is if 19 years go by, we're all still here, and somebody gives them parole. How about that? No, not for 2. Not for 2. Because it should be 19 per child, unless that's not the truth. Not 19 total to life. 19 per kid. But my understanding is 15 to life. Each person got 15 to life. So to me, it's still disrespectful because you're still talking about 2 children. So if each got out early after the 19 years, they basically would have only done 8 years per child. Now, how is that fair? Because that's what it said. 15 to life plus 4 years for the abuse of the other child. So if they got parole after 19 years, they would have only gotten 8 years. Or 9 or so years per kid, excuse me. 9+ years. And how is that fair? For murdering a child. And one would say you deliberately murdered the one that you didn't even get the guilty murder charge on. Because how does he pop up missing? Classic. I don't really like calling them by either names given to them, be truthful. The ones given by bio or the ones they gave them. Because I feel like these children were neglected from the jump, from birth. So they were irrelevant anyway. That's why they got in this debacle with Jacqueline and Trezell West. And as I said before, how can you logically explain not doing what you need to do to get custody of your children, regain custody? You can't make it make sense because a year is a long time for your child to stay in the state's care. So the average person with some sense would ask the bio mom too, well, what were you doing all that time? Bio father, what were you doing? Because had these children had a decent life, upbringing, people who care for them, they would have never made it to the West House. I blame everybody. That's just who I am. There is nobody I don't blame because there are too many people who have immersed themselves in this case, acting as if they care for these children. And in the end, they were failed from birth. And my thing is, you can't expect some random strangers to do right by children when their own family didn't do right by them. And you just somehow in your head say, well, they're in the state's care. Somebody want to adopt them. They're going to do better. You hope they would do better. You pray they would do better. But they didn't get that. And as I said before, it is a tragedy to go from house to house. If you've never lived that life, you don't know what that's like. And it doesn't matter if you're 6 months old, 2 years old, 10 years old, 16. Uprooting from place to place is daunting because that's not the way you're supposed to live. Go from house to house, house to house, house to house. And you see this with even smaller children going from foster care to foster care, and they're little people. And you're asking yourself, what is the problem? Why are these children going from house to house? Combination of reasons. Children may be hard to handle. The parents are hard to deal with. Issues with other children, family members. Children not evenly meshed with the family dynamic. So now, poof, poof, kid gone, over here to the next house. Start the cycle all over again. Who wants to live like that? A child shouldn't live this way. An adult shouldn't live this way. Because there's nothing like stability. Waking up in the same house, same bed, same amenities, same neighborhood, same people. But the gist is, are you being treated accordingly? They didn't have a chance. And that's the gist of the story. And you can wax over it all you want. Listen at 1,000 different scenarios of who did what and didn't do what, and what the state didn't do, and da-da-da-da-da. The point is, the state didn't just find these kids. There was a reason they were removed from their mother. And there's a reason why they were never retrieved by her or the bio dad. And then they happened to get in the care of the West and sadly died in their care. God had a plan. Evil as this plan was, he had a plan. And he knows all. And as Tamia Taylor's mother has said, you don't always have to know everything, see everything, but God knows everything. Prayers for the other children who are in state's care. As far as I know, I haven't heard that any of the children have been adopted out. But what a flip of the coin that these people would take in children, and I do believe they did it for monetary gain, so they wouldn't have to work, to only murder 2 children in their care and have their other 2 adoptive children put back into the state's care alongside their own biological children. See, that was their karma. Sadly, the children had to pay the piper for their parents' misdeeds. But that's a saying in the Bible, sins of the father. Sometimes they come back around, your sins, and they plague your children who don't have a dog in the race and didn't ask for the plague. I pray that those children will grow up to be productive citizens. I pray that their childhood will be productive, that they'll be happy, content, and as I said, treated accordingly. And I also pray that none of them take any of these wicked ways into adulthood, because that would also be a travesty. Because you learn by example, you lead by example. And this is the reason that we have true crime, because of how people were raised as children. They emulate how they were treated. But there is hope. And I pray that they're getting adequate counseling, love, so as they won't become like their parents. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $McAngie129, Cash App, stickers, and chats are always welcome in the live stream. Thank you so much for following this content. This was a 3-part live pertaining to Tupac Shakur's killer. He has been arrested. New persons of interest in the JonBenet murder. And why did Jackie not turn on Trezell? 3-part live. Have a safe weekend. Be aware of your surroundings, mindful of your surroundings and the company you keep. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. Thank you for those that came in the chat, viewing audience, new subs. Please check my community board for said updates, polls, comment below the videos to give me your said commentary. And sometimes I post breaking news to stories that I have not covered, but it's just to give you an update of everything that's going on. Thank you, Lolo. Have a beautiful weekend as well. Once again, please be aware of your surroundings. And don't feel like you can't say something about any nefarious deeds. You don't have to give your name, your location, but you just may save a life. Because remember, there is no snitch rule when it comes to children. You're welcome, Terry. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Please take the polls. I will pull up a poll pertaining to Tupac, JonBenet, and Jackie and Trezell. And feel free to comment, as I said, below the video and below the polls and the posts. And also check my community board for the said movie suggestions for this week at the weekend. Hope you all enjoy the suggestions. God bless all of you. Stay safe. You have been listening to The Vault XL.